Imagine this. You're sitting at home when suddenly, everything goes dark. At first it seems like a typical power outage, but then days turn into weeks and weeks into months. The unthinkable has happened. The power grid has failed permanently. This is not a temporary blackout we're used to, but a complete and enduring shutdown of our power supply. In the immediate aftermath, the world as we know it starts to unravel. The sudden silence of our always-on, always-connected lives is deafening. Your home, once buzzing with the hum of appliances, is now eerily quiet. Streetlights no longer guide your way and the familiar glow of screens is absent. The first few hours are a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. Communication networks collapse as cell towers and internet servers lose power. Without electricity, news can't be broadcast, and social media platforms go silent. The ripple effects of the power grid failure extend far beyond the confines of your home. For urban dwellers, the cityscape changes dramatically. Skyscrapers stand as dark monoliths against the skyline. Elevators are stuck, subways cease to run, and traffic lights fail, causing chaos on the streets. The hustle and bustle of city life grinds to a halt. In rural areas, the effects are equally drastic. Water pumps stop working, cutting off the supply of clean water. Farms, so reliant on electric machinery, are left stranded. The tranquility of country living is replaced by a new kind of silence, one filled with challenges and hardship. The swift realization that this is not a brief interruption but a lasting change leads to panic. Stores are quickly emptied as people scramble to stockpile food, water, and other essentials. Emergency services are overwhelmed, and the thin veneer of societal order starts to crack. The first few hours post-grid failure would be filled with uncertainty and turmoil as the reality of the situation sets in. But as the dust settles, the human spirit of resilience and adaptability begins to shine. And while the world may seem unrecognizable, remember, humanity has thrived before the advent of electricity, and it can do so again. Without electricity, even the simplest tasks become daunting challenges. Let's take a moment to imagine life stripped of all electric conveniences. When the power grid goes down, the first thing you'll notice is the silence. No hum of the refrigerator, no buzz of the air conditioner, no chime of the microwave. The lights are out, and the temperature inside your home starts to match the outdoors. You're in a world without electricity, and life as you know it is about to change drastically. Cooking, for instance, would no longer be as simple as turning on the stove or popping something in the microwave. You'd have to rely on alternative methods like wood-burning stoves or solar cookers. It's back to basics: boiling water over an open flame and grilling food on a barbecue. Heating your home during colder months would require a fireplace or a wood-burning stove, while cooling in the hot summer months would be limited to natural ventilation and shade. The luxury of a thermostat-controlled environment would be a thing of the past. Lighting your home becomes a matter of daylight hours, candles, or oil lamps. Your day begins at sunrise and ends at sunset. The nights are darker, the shadows longer, and the world becomes a much quieter place. Then there's the shift from electric appliances. Say goodbye to the washing machine and the vacuum cleaner. You'll be washing clothes by hand and sweeping floors with a broom. The sudden unavailability of electricity would not just be an inconvenience, it would demand a complete overhaul of our daily routines, a relearning of basic tasks, a return to simpler, albeit harder, ways of living. But here's the thing. Humans lived without electricity for thousands of years, and they not only survived, but they also thrived. Yes, it would be challenging and require some major adjustments, but with the right mindset and preparation, it's entirely possible to adapt to life without electricity. Adapting to life without electricity would require a drastic shift in our daily routines. The key is to start preparing now, so you're ready if the unthinkable happens. Water is life, and sanitation is crucial to health, but without electricity, both become immediate issues. Think about it. No power means no electric pumps, which means no running water. This is a problem we'd face from the moment we turn on our faucets and nothing comes out. Suddenly, accessing clean water becomes a Herculean task. We'd need to find alternative sources like rivers, lakes, and wells, but these aren't always available, especially in urban areas. Rainwater collection could be a lifesaver with a setup as simple as a barrel under a downspout. But even rainwater isn't perfectly clean. It can pick up pollutants in the air or from the surfaces it touches. So we'd need a way to purify it. Boiling is one option, but that requires a heat source and a lot of fuel. Chemical treatments, like iodine or chlorine, are another option. They're lightweight, portable, and easy to use, but they have a limited shelf life, and can leave a taste in the water. The best option might be a good old-fashioned water filter, which can remove both particles and microorganisms. Now, let's talk about sanitation. Without running water, we can't just flush our waste away. We'd need to find a different solution. Compost toilets are one option. They're simple to set up and maintain, and they can turn waste into a valuable resource, nutrient-rich compost. But they do require careful management to prevent odors and flies. Waste disposal would be another challenge. Without garbage collection, waste could quickly pile up, attracting pests and spreading disease. We'd need to minimize our waste and find ways to reuse or recycle it. Hand hygiene would also become more important than ever. Without clean water, washing hands becomes a challenge. Alcohol-based hand sanitizers could help, but they're not a perfect substitute for soap and water. Securing safe water and sanitation would become a top priority in a grid-down scenario. So it's worth thinking about these issues now, while we still have the luxury of time and resources. In a world without supermarkets, securing food for survival becomes a daily task. This isn't a return to the days of hunting and gathering, but it does require a fundamental shift in our approach to food. Our reliance on supermarkets has made us significantly detached from the source of our food. But in a grid-down scenario, we'd have to reconnect with the soil, the seeds, and the seasons. Growing your own food isn't just about planting a few tomatoes in the backyard. It's about understanding the soil, knowing what crops thrive in your climate, and planning your garden for year-round harvests. In addition to growing your own food, foraging becomes a valuable skill. Wild edibles are more than just a survival food. They're a rich source of nutrients that could supplement your diet. And then, there's the art of preserving food without refrigeration. Canning, pickling, drying, smoking, and fermenting are age-old practices that can help extend the shelf life of your harvests. These methods not only preserve the nutritional value of food, but also add variety to your meals, making diet monotony a thing of the past. But let's not forget about the importance of a well-stocked pantry. Long shelf-life items like grains, beans, and canned goods can provide a safety net in times of scarcity. A pantry isn't a hoard of food, it's a carefully curated collection of ingredients that can be combined in multiple ways to create nourishing meals. In a world without supermarkets, managing our food resources wisely becomes a matter of survival. This means planning meals, reducing waste, and rotating our pantry stock to ensure nothing goes out of date. Food security in a grid-down world wouldn't just happen overnight. It would require a mix of planning, preparation, and adaptability, but with the right mindset and skills, we can turn this challenge into an opportunity to reconnect with nature, with our food, and with each other. Safety and security take on a whole new meaning when the grid goes down permanently. With the collapse of our power infrastructure, society would face a seismic shift, one that could lead to a breakdown in law and order. The absence of electricity would disable alarm systems, streetlights, and other security measures, leaving homes and businesses vulnerable to potential looting and unrest. In such a world, community safety plans would be crucial. Neighbors would need to band together, leveraging the strength of numbers and diverse skills to protect their shared spaces. A community watch could be established, with residents taking turns to keep an eye out for suspicious activity. Shared resources like food, water, and medical supplies could be safeguarded in a communal storehouse under constant protection. Personal protection strategies would also be of paramount importance. Basic self-defense skills could be the difference between life and death. It would be wise to learn how to handle basic weapons, such as knives, bows, and even firearms, responsibly and safely. However, the goal should always be to avoid confrontation when possible, rather than invite unnecessary risk. In a grid-down world, home fortifications would become a key part of your security plan. Simple measures such as reinforcing doors and windows, creating hidden storage spaces for valuable items, and setting up basic alarm systems like tripwires or noisemakers could deter potential intruders. Remember, the aim isn't to turn your home into a fortress, but to make it a less attractive target for those with ill intent. In such a scenario, your safety and security would depend heavily on your ability to adapt and think creatively. It would be about building a community, learning new skills, and making smart, strategic decisions to protect yourself and those around you. While this might sound daunting, it's important to remember that human beings have survived under far harsher conditions for thousands of years. Ensuring safety and security would be vital to survival in a world without grid power. Living without modern conveniences requires not only physical adjustments but psychological ones as well. When the power grid fails permanently, our lives are transformed entirely. We're not talking about simply adjusting to a few days without electricity, but a complete lifestyle overhaul. Adapting to a new normal becomes a crucial part of survival. This new life will be devoid of the luxuries we're accustomed to. No more flicking on the light switch when it gets dark. No more heating up leftovers in the microwave. No running water at the twist of a tap. The psychological impact of such a drastic change cannot be overstated. It will demand resilience, adaptability, and a strong will to persevere. However, it's important to remember that we are not alone in this. The community plays a vital role in mutual aid and support. In times of crisis, we see the true strength of human connection as we rely on each other for shared resources, skills, and emotional support. In a grid-down world, the community becomes our lifeline. Education and skills training also become paramount. The ability to repair a broken tool, administer basic medical care, or craft necessary items from available materials could mean the difference between survival and disaster. These are skills that our ancestors took for granted, but in our modern, convenience-filled world, many of us have forgotten. Finally, it's crucial to understand that this isn't an overnight adjustment. It's a long-term, ongoing process that will require time, patience, and constant learning. We must be prepared to make mistakes, to face challenges, and to adapt to an ever-changing landscape. In conclusion, preparing for a permanent power grid failure isn't just about stocking up on canned goods or learning how to start a fire. It's about preparing ourselves mentally and emotionally for a new way of life, about relearning old skills and developing new ones, and about strengthening our connections with our community. Preparing for a permanent power grid failure means preparing for a complete lifestyle change. It's a daunting task, but with the right mindset and the right preparations, we can face the future with confidence. In a world without power, money may not hold the same value, and logistics would take on a whole new meaning. In the event of a permanent grid-down situation, the financial landscape would undergo a radical shift. Traditional forms of currency may no longer hold the same value. In such times, bartering could become a primary method of exchange. It's time to reevaluate what wealth means. It's not just about having stacks of cash, but about having resources that people need. Items like bottled water, canned food, medical supplies, and even practical skills like carpentry or farming could become your new currency. But let's not throw money out the window just yet. Having some cash on hand is still a good idea, especially for the initial stages of a power outage. Banks and ATMs would be inaccessible, and digital transactions impossible. Assets like gold and silver, known for their lasting value, could also serve as a fallback. But remember, in a world where survival is paramount, practical goods and skills may be valued far more than precious metals. Now let's shift gears and talk about logistics. In a no-grid world, geographic location would become incredibly important. If you currently live in a densely populated urban area, you might want to consider the feasibility of relocating to a more rural setting where resources like water and fertile land are more plentiful. Setting up renewable energy sources would also be a significant part of your logistical planning. Solar panels, wind turbines, or even a water wheel if you're near a flowing water source could provide a level of self-sufficiency that would be invaluable in a grid-down scenario. And let's not forget the importance of community networking. Building relationships with your neighbors, creating mutual aid agreements, and pooling resources can provide a collective security that is hard to achieve alone. To sum it up, financial and logistical preparation is key to survival in a grid-down world. In such a scenario, your wealth is measured not by your bank balance, but by the practical resources you possess and the self-sufficiency skills you've honed. And logistics becomes less about global supply chains and more about local resource management and community cooperation.